Hi, welcome back to Arry The Stag. In this video, we're going to look at the iconic Triumph Dolomite Sprint through the eyes of an actual owner, Chris Curtis, who's been in touch this week and actually has a concours car, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. Stay with the program. And he's also recently purchased a Triumph Stag as well, obviously a car that's beloved and well known to us too, so he's ideally placed, I think, to have an opinion on which one he loves best, and I know that you'll have yours as well. Be sure to stay till the very end because there I'll be getting some actual footage that Chris sent in recently. He did a walk around the car himself, so stay on for that, and I'll show you that at the very end. A good walk around the car to see it up close and personal, and equally some photographs he sent in the meantime. And remember, at the very end I'll direct you on to another video that I think is fantastic. It's all about the video that we did a while ago on the ultimate Stag, and what I think is still the ultimate Triumph Stag. And before we get into the details of Chris's car, let's just understand a little bit more about the Triumph Dolomite Sprint, which was a car first released in 1973, originally as a very high performance member of the Project Ajax family of small cars that was developed by Triumph at the time. It featured styling, as you'd expect, as many other Triumphs did, from Giovanni Michelotti, a favourite designer of many Triumphs, and also in fact the designer of the BMW 2002, which this car was developed to take the fight to, and also incidentally the Alfa Romeo 2000 GTV, but it never really achieved anywhere near the same level of enthusiasm from the marketplace. Now, it was designed to offer sports car-like performance in a four-door saloon package, and much like the German and Italian versions, the 2002 and GTV, to meet really the market demand that was out there for cars that were fun and great to drive, which you can't blame us, can you? And the power was developed by a 1998 single overhead cam inline 4 with 16 valves, offering just over 127 brake horsepower and 122 pounds of torque. And I know the police used to use them a lot as well. They were pretty handy for grabbing criminals with. So Chris says in his email that he was thinking about sending us through some information and photographs on his early Dolomite Sprint for a while, and even though he's pretty recent to Stag ownership, his first love has always been the Triumph Dolomite, having owned them in some guise or another since he was 16. He even learned to drive in 1300, which he misses very much indeed. After the recent bad weather we endured in the UK, he took the opportunity to check on the storage unit that he shares with some Ford-loving mates, very local to him, just to really make sure that the early Dolomite Sprint had survived the storms. And he made that walk-around video whilst he was there, which we'll show you at the end if you remember, so hang on till the end and we'll check back on that. Now, Chris's Dolomite Sprint is actually an ex-concours national show winner, which he retired from those type of shows some years ago, basically because there was so much work involved in keeping it to that standard. It now enjoys more leisurely lifestyle with probably only local shows and weekend trips out during the summer months, so has wound it back in a little bit. Now, he says that early sprints are becoming very desirable if you can actually find a genuine one anymore. I know we saw one for market not too long ago that went for a very good price, and good early ones can easily make now over £20,000 plus, and the most sought after in sprint circles are what are known as the pre-2000 cars, relating to chassis build numbers, and these are sprints built in early 1973 and up until the launch of the model to the public in late June 1973, and these cars will have a chassis number inside the magic 2000 threshold and were all painted the same colour, which was mimosa yellow. Chassis number 1 is currently at the Coventry Museum, and I think you can just see a picture of it there, and the very last sprint off the production line is also at Gaydon, where we went filming recently. It's in carmine red, and as Chris said, maybe we should check that out next time we're back up at the British Motor Museum at Gaydon in Warwickshire, and we had a good run around there the other week. And if you've not seen that video, go to the channel, have a look. There's a number of videos on there from that trip up to see the last Stag that was ever made, which was really good. And bizarrely, these very early sprints were not fitted with overdrive, says Chris, which is really interesting, and would soon become an option from the launch date, which is the 23rd of June 1973, and will either be on a UKL registration or in a few cases on the M registration, and so that's something to look out for. Apparently some early cars sat around in storage car parks for quite a while as customers waited for more colour choice, hence some early Mimosa cars weren't registered until the 1st of August 1973 on the M Reg, which at that time, if you remember, it was an annual registration event. Interesting fact, he says, is that the Dolomite Sprint was the first British production car to be fitted with a 16-valve engine and also offer alloy wheels as standard equipment. It also had a vinyl roof as standard and twin exhausts running down the offside of the car. As he says, overdrive was initially optional but became standard in 1975. Now, a few automatic Sprints were made but are not as sought after now, but of course they are far less common these days. Limited slip differential, LSD in brackets, was a very expensive option but is highly sought after today. That's if you can find one fitted to a car, and it can be identified by simply looking at the back axle where the letter S will be stamped upon it. And in fact, the Dolomite Sprint has featured on our screens, interestingly enough, in the past, and first was seen on air with the first season of The Professionals, if you remember that series back in the 1980s, and latterly, and more recently, in the latest Johnny English movie with Rowan Atkinson. Now, it's very common for the less powerful version, the Dolomite 1850, to be made to look like a genuine Sprint with a simple engine and wheels swap. So be wary of this and be cautious if advised when you go to look at the car for sale if it's pertaining to be a genuine Sprint. Obviously, if it's £20,000, it is quite tempting to make it look like a Dolomite Sprint, I'm sure. And for the untrained eye, it can be quite hard to spot the difference. The Sprint was very successful in saloon car racing in the mid to late 70s in the hands of Andy Rouse, winning back-to-back British Saloon Championships in a broad-speed prepared car. Incidentally, says Chris, his Dolomite Sprint OFL 755M is believed to be the earliest factory white car surviving in the UK and being built on the 18th of October 1973. This was 4 months after the initial launch date, and was registered on the 12th of December 1973 in Peterborough, meaning it was amongst the first batch of Sprints to be offered in an alternative shade to Mimosa Yellow, with things like white, magenta, pimento red, sapphire blue, sienna brown, emerald green, as well as Mimosa Yellow being available. OFL was restored in the late 1980s by a well-known Dolomite restorer, Howard Bowles, who also owned an unmarked Sprint police car. We mentioned police cars at the front end, didn't we? And is now good company for his early white Stag built 2 years beforehand. Okay, as I promised you earlier, Chris had sent in a walk-around video of his Dolomite Sprint. So before I go over to that, I'll just let you know there's a couple of interesting and strange facts that he's also shared with us that I'll share with you after the video. So stay on for the end and you can check that out. Meanwhile, let's go and have a look at the video he made and have a bit of a walk-around.
This is my 1973 Dolomite Sprint, chassis number 3225. Anybody who knows anything about Sprints will know that the first 2,000 were all Mimosa Yellow. This is one of the first batch that was done in a different colour. Registered in December of 73 and built in October of 73. Old English white with black trim. Owned by myself for 28 years going on. Totally restored in the late 80s, early 90s by a well-known Dolomite enthusiast in the Dolomite Club. Howard, if you're still out there, good luck, mate. The car is currently in storage while I finish some few jobs on the Stag, but they will be crossing over soon and the Stag will be coming into the storage unit and the Sprint will be coming back ready. A bit of work on the brakes, maybe a bit of a check over and a service. Make sure she's in good health. She's been here about 6 months. It all looks good. I regularly check on her. Start her up occasionally. Once a month, give her a run. But it's now time for her weather's changing slightly to come out into the daylight.
And I think you'll agree with me. What a fantastic looking car that is, Chris. You've done a sterling job, and looking forward to seeing it coming out on the road. And as promised at the start there, a couple of other interesting facts. And the first of which was that is not widely known is that the famous press car FHP 923L that I think you can see right here, which was used extensively in photo shoots before the official launch of the Dolomite Sprint, was actually a hastily converted left-hand drive Dolomite 1850, which was white originally, but quickly was painted mimosa yellow to match the not quite yet ready yet remaining press cars, badly by all accounts, and rumour has it that parts of it still survive in a lock-up in the West Country to this day. So if anybody out there has got one, please get in touch. It'll be really interesting. And then secondly, the Sprint was not the original name for the car. Apparently, Triumph intended to launch it as a Dolomite 135, and 135 was referring to the brake horsepower produced. However, it was suggested that they could not get all the cars to consistently reach that figure, and therefore it would have been misrepresentation, I guess, and settled on the car being officially launched with the 127 brake horsepower. Hence, they renamed it the Triumph Dolomite Sprint, and that's what we all know and love. So, what's your view? Is it Triumph Stag or Triumph Dolomite Sprint that's your favourite? Chris, I think, has made his point throughout this video, but there again, he has both cars, so I think he's doing very well. Now, I did promise you a comparison at the front end, so if you'd like to see another video about the ultimate Stag, then check out the video at the very end. I'm going to send you to right now, and you decide. That's it from us this week, guys. Have a great week, and see you online on Arry the Stag very soon.